Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to my vlog, my twin flame story week by week. My name is Michelle Fondinauthor for those of you that are new to my channel. Thanks so much for subscribing below if you're brand new. And hit that bell icon, switch up to all notifications so you get notifications of all of my upcoming videos. So I want to thank you guys for joining, and this is another episode of my twin flame story week by week, which is this vlog that I started because I decided that it was more than time to document my twin flame journey with you guys. And this is a new week, a brand new week. Today is January 22nd, 2022. No, it's actually January 23rd. I should know that. It's my middle son's birthday today, so I should have known that. It is January 23rd, 2022, and I'm going to give a report of the last week and what this has been like. So, new contact with my twin, which is relatively awesome. Some like surprising conversations. So I'm gonna spare you guys the details of that until things have evolved a little bit more, but you know, great news, great conversations. But what I really wanted to talk to you guys about today, and I've got my tea here. I don't have my Grogu mug because I just have my teacup. I have ginger tea today because that darn thing kept the tea way too hot, which is good if you're traveling. Not so good if you have a half hour or a 15-minute vlog. So here we go. I've got my Boss Lady shirt on today because it's funny. The Boss Lady shirt makes me feel empowered for some reason. It's my personal power t-shirt. So this is my personal power t-shirt. That's what I've got on today. What I wanted to talk to you guys about was deep-seated fears or unearthing fears that have been buried deep. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding. Unearthing those fears for me. And it's been a better week in like some ways and a worse week in some ways. But I think overall, as I think about today, overall, it's good stuff. It's just stuff that I haven't really wanted to think about in a really long time, but I was somehow forced to think about things and unearthing these fears that have been entrenched deep inside of me that I thought I had addressed those fears for the most part, but if I really truly think about it, the fears were dealt with in some ways and then kind of like subverted in some ways. So I'm going to tell the story a little bit of what led me to these fears, because if you don't understand the origins of the fears, then you're not going to understand what happened this week. So in my book, The Wheel of Healing with Ayurveda, so I'm going to show you, I'm going to do a little show and tell here. So in 2014, I self-published this book, which is the first version of The Wheel of Healing. And it says, The Wheel of Healing, an easy guide to an Ayurvedic lifestyle. And to my great fortune, New World Library, the publisher, picked it up 6 weeks later. And it is now this book, The Wheel of Healing with Ayurveda, an easy guide to a healthy lifestyle. Now, what prompted the writing of this book and the subsequent book that came out in 2018, I believe, Enlightened Medicine, Your Power to Get Well Now, the purpose for writing this book has to do with the story I'm going to tell you now, because that story is also inside this book. So for those of you that have actually read this book, you already know this story, but I'm going to repeat it again here. So back when I was 28 years old, in 1999, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. Now, I was going about my daily business with my life. I had 2 small children. Matthew, whose birthday is today, he was about about 18 months old at the time. And I have an eldest, Jay, was about 5 at the time. So I had 2 small kids. I was 28 years old, diagnosed with thyroid cancer. So you can imagine how being faced with my own mortality brought up a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fears, a lot of regret. Like, it was just so much stuff. However, I really, like, the story is much longer, but I decided, I did do traditional medicine to remove the tumors and to do radioactive iodine treatment. It really wasn't what I wanted to do. I felt pressured by my family to do it, so that is what I did. Now, in between that, hearing the word cancer was not a fun word to hear when you're 28 years old, and being faced with your own mortality when you're 28 years old is not a great thing. But in the end, it kind of turned out to be a great thing because it led me to a lot of research about alternative methods of medicine. I had been practicing yoga off and on since 1989. I had to think about it for a minute. I had been practicing guided meditation. I had been into alternative spirituality, if you will, or Eastern philosophy, Eastern spirituality. And it wasn't until I was faced with this cancer diagnosis in 1999 that I began to do a lot of research into alternative therapies, alternative medicine, or alternative and complementary medicine. In other words, medical systems that existed before our modern medical system, which I do write about. Ayurveda, obviously, mind-body medicine from India here, and I write about the birth of modern medicine and what the alternative practices looked like then in this book, Enlightened Medicine. So I knew that if I didn't get to the root cause of the actual issue, that something would come back. And in those books, I write about it extensively. And in my videos on Ayurveda as well, on this channel, there is a whole section on this channel where I talk about Ayurveda and Ayurvedic medicine. I do speak about it quite a bit, actually. So here's the thing, though. It wasn't necessarily the surgeries, the radioactive iodine treatments, the fear of cancer that got me down, although it did. I'm just telling you right now, that wasn't really the thing that got me down. What got me down was after I had my thyroid removed, they had to put me on thyroid supplement. So, to replace the thyroid. And they put me on synthetic thyroid hormones, and my body was not responding favorably to synthetic thyroid hormones. So even though my blood tests were showing that I was fine and everything else, the numbers looked good, I was not feeling good. So I had this whole list of symptoms that was occurring and reoccurring. And the frustrating part was that no Western doctor I went to actually believed me. And like pretty soon, like this was like maybe six months to a year out after the surgeries, it was just this desperate grasp for anyone that would believe me. And I actually ended up going to, his name is Dr. Wisniewski, and he was my savior at that time. He was an integrative health specialist. So he was a medical doctor, an endocrinologist, as well as someone who embraced different forms of alternative medicine. And when I say he's the one that saved my life, because he's the one that truly saved my life, because it wasn't the cancer that was killing me. It was all the symptoms, because I was on a medication that my body wasn't truly responding to. So he took me off the synthetic thyroid hormones. He put me on nature thyroid, which is desiccated pig thyroid hormone, which is kind of funny for a vegetarian, but I've been taking that since that time. And it took about another year before I started feeling better. So I was sick for a full 2 years, not knowing, waking up, not knowing each day how I was going to feel. Now, in addition to that, I need to give you another piece of the backstory. And another piece of the backstory is that as a child, from about age 0 to age 18, I grew up very, very, very sick. And when I say very sick, I'm not joking. I would pick up everything, every virus, every bacteria that was out there, I would pick it up. And I had really bad intestinal problems that they could not pinpoint. And I would be out of school for weeks at a time. I was out of school probably as much as I was in school. So you can imagine that growing up being sick and then having had cancer at age 28, my life has been pretty darn committed to health and wellness. Now, when I say it's a bad thing and a good thing, the good thing is at that point, when I finally came out on the other end and I discovered Ayurveda, because Ayurveda is what helped me to regain my sanity. Because while I was going through this transition of medication and then the dosage, they had to arrange it, I started practicing the principles of Ayurveda, and I started feeling better than I had ever felt because it was regulating something in my body. So I swear by the practices of Ayurveda, in all honesty. I do. To this day, I swear by those practices. So what occurred this week that unearthed the deep-seated fear of being sick, because I had swore at that time, I said, I've gone through a lot in my 28, 29, 30 years by that time. I don't want to have to revisit this. Like, I just don't. So I'm going to live my life in a certain way. I'm going to adhere to certain principles. I'm going to use yoga, meditation, nutrition, supplementation, all of that to help me attain optimal health always. And that's what I have done. So the problem is that every time I'd have to go see the endocrinologist to get a blood test, adjust my medication, or not adjust the medication, but just go in to see a doctor, or any doctor for that matter, I had this feeling of sheer terror, like real terror. And that is carried up until now. I'll tell you that right now. I have an endocrinologist now that I'm working with, and I'm trying to be really accepting of her. And she's pretty darn good. She's not a bad endocrinologist, but I've had to like prep myself every single time I go into the endocrinologist's office to not be fearful. And to that end, I really don't go see other doctors because I don't like them. I have this obvious fear of doctors in general. And you know, I've had a couple of good like OBGYNs in the past and stuff like that. But I always feel like when we have these deep-seated fears that aren't taken care of, at some point they're going to resurface so that we can deal with them. And so what happened, and this is what I've mentioned in previous vlogs, is that in 2021, in June, end of June, I got COVID. And COVID was pretty bad for me. Like, I was vaccinated. I wasn't fully immune yet, but I was vaccinated. I got COVID for about 10 days, and it was pretty bad. I never really feared for my health except for maybe a day within that. But I wasn't really fearful. Like, I was like, this is pretty sucky. It's pretty darn bad. But like, I've actually seen worse. Like, I felt like I had mononucleosis when I was 17. I had it for over a month. I was hospitalized because of it. And I think that was actually worse. The cancer surgeries and everything itself were pretty bad. Like, I've been in surgeries before that were pretty bad. So yeah, I mean, COVID was terrible, but it wasn't like the worst thing I had been through. Like cold flu wise, yeah, I would say it's pretty far up there, but it wasn't that. Again, so it's kind of like similar parallel to the cancer, because it wasn't really the cancer treatments and everything. And I was going through therapy. So if you guys think like, oh God, it was all mental, I was actually with a good therapist. I had a good nurse practitioner that was, I used for therapy and guided meditations. So she was really, really good. She worked with me for a long time. and you know, and I had subsequent therapy after that as well. But it really wasn't like COVID that like got me down. Although it was interesting because after I had COVID, like the month after, I told the person that I was actually dating at the time, I told him, I feel like I have mononucleosis. Like it felt exactly like I had mono, like the month after COVID. And it was shortly thereafter that these symptoms of the secondary infection showed up in like really bad. And so just to give you guys like some insight is that was September. I did not know what it was until end of December. So I've been on a program, a diet, like something to help me with this secondary infection for about a month now, and things have gotten significantly better, but I'm still not out of the woods, to be honest with you. I'm still not out of the woods. But there was something in this, like being sick for months on end. And I had also consulted with 2 physicians at the time, like in the fall, who had no idea what I had. And they were like, it doesn't really look like anything. Like, it doesn't look like you have anything. And I was like, why? No, this is not true. Like, no, these symptoms are actually real. And it wasn't until this week that I realized that how much that felt like when I was going through post-cancer stuff with the thyroid, where it was like, I was telling physicians like, look, these symptoms are actually real. They're real physical symptoms. And the doctor's like, no, you're fine. You're totally fine. So I realized that this week I was in this great fear for my health. I was in this great fear of getting sick. I was like so upset that I would get sick and have all of these symptoms of this thing that happened. And I'm not going to tell you guys what happened because it's too much. It's too much. It's too graphic. It's too much. And I'm not going to tell you, but that I would be this sick and that I wouldn't be able to heal myself. And that the doctors couldn't figure it out either. And it made me so scared and so upset because I'm so careful with my health. And the deep-seated fear that unearthed was that this really does feel like revisiting that time period of 1999 to 2001. And what I realized was I realized a few things last night. One of the things I realized that I need to stop being so harsh on myself. And it's like you can do what you can do, but there are some things that you just have no control over. And like, as even in your health, like I can do everything for my health. I can do everything to try to set things right with my health. But honestly, there's just some things that you don't have direct control over, you know, and it's kind of like maybe I can heal and I will heal, but the timetable for the healing is out of my hands, right? So that's really what I'm speaking about. I'm not saying like I am doomed, although I have thought that, believe me, that's crossed my mind. But I feel like it's more of like, well, yes, I will heal, but I don't have direct control over the timetable of when I will actually be fully healed. I think the other thing is that I need to be in acceptance about the changes that I needed to make in my diet, which was weird because like I said, I've been really eating very healthfully. And I don't know, maybe it was just time, maybe angelic guidance was just pushing me that it was just time to modify my diet even more, change the way I consume certain things and let go of other things, I guess. And so maybe it was just time that I needed to do that. And, you know, and that's another thing I wanted to bring up. So let me finish with this first. So the first thing I wanted to say is I realized I needed to forgive myself for being so hard on myself. I needed to forgive myself for being such a perfectionist when it comes to my health. And I need to stop blaming myself for being sick. Because, like I said, there's just some things that are beyond your control. And like some of it could be past life stuff with my health. Some of it could be like spiritual growth with my health. Some of it could just be like redirection. You know, like I said, if my angels and guides want me to give up sugar, then I need to give up sugar and I just need to accept that, you know? So things like that. It's like, okay, maybe I do need to do this. So yeah, it's been a rough week of realizations. It's been a rough week of unearthing these fears surrounding my health. And I think that I needed to take a look at these fears that I had been holding on to surrounding ill health and just know that I can do my best. I can do my best, and that's all I can do, right? You can do your best, and that's all you can do. There's nothing more I can do than to just do my best. I'm not perfect. I don't even think as humans with health, like we're not expected to be perfect. It's just, and I do feel like the fear of, oh my God, I might get sick, even though that wasn't really on the forefront of my being. Like I was always like, yeah, you know, I'm doing everything I can do. I'm probably not going to get sick. But I think that underlying fear of maybe getting sick again or being so rigid with my diet, rigid with my exercise, rigid with my health plan, that it kind of pushed my body into stress levels that it didn't need to be in. So yeah, so that's what I'm like grappling this week. And it's funny, out of all things considered, I'm not fearful about my twin flame. I'm not fearful about not being with my twin flame. Like not at all. Like I know we're going to be together. I'm not even fearful about that. Like that's definitely not a fear. It has been a little bit of a fear in the past, maybe a year or two ago, but no, I know we're going to be together. That's not even a fear. But this health thing is just weird for me. It's so weird because like I said, I've been so careful that I'm just, you know, it has been baffling. It's been confusing. It's been disheartening. Like I've been so disheartened. I'm like, why? Like, why is this happening? Like, why do I need to go through this? It really, really, really super duper sucks. So I guess to flip it around, oh yeah, health. Yeah. I wanted to say this really quickly. For some of you out there, if you really think that like being healthy or eating healthy and keeping a healthy body is not necessary on the twin flame journey, then you need to maybe reevaluate that. Because here's why. To be a clear channel for spiritual messages, divine messages, you need to actually be a clear channel, you know, and not be polluted with pollutants that you're putting into your body. Okay. So if your diet is consisting of Cheetos, Pop-Tarts, and Coke, probably not a great thing to keep a clear channel for your angelic messages, right? To come through. And I'm not saying you have to be as fanatical as I am, for sure. Like, honestly, I don't wish that upon anybody. I don't wish it upon anybody to be as a fanatic as I am about health. And, you know, one of the things that I did make the decision about, if I have to stick with this particular diet that I'm on, what I'll do, because you need balance, right? We need balance in life. What I'll do is I'll do the diet 5 days a week and keep the weekends open for fun. Because again, it's that I need to steer away from that rigidity, the rigidity of what I've been doing for the past 20 years. And the rigidity is out of fear. It's actually what it is. So once my body is healed, I think that's going to be my plan, is to reestablish balance. So 5 days a week, I can be as strict with my diet as I possibly can. And then 2 days a week, let loose. Let it loose. And finally, I just wanted to invite you with me to look at your deep fears, because they're not fun to look at, but there might be a tie-in to something from your past that you're actually needing to heal. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining me on my weekly vlog, my weekly twin flame vlog. And hopefully next week I'll have like more news. That's good, I guess. Thanks so much for joining me. Thanks for subscribing to my channel below. Click on that bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. And thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. Thank you for sharing this video with other twin flames. And thank you so much for your support on my YouTube channel. You know what to do. You can book a reading and all that jazz. The links are below. Bye.